Hello, 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 LinkedIn, hello, Facebook, hello, YouTube. My name is Linda Murray Bullard. They call me the business plug, and you've just tuned into the business plugs mixer. I tell you what, some Sundays getting started is like the job, okay? But when we're here, and before I introduce you to my guest, I want to tell you some things. I want to tell you, first of all, if you're interested in being on the show, then please click the link that is in the description. If you are interested in sampling my 12-week course, we have 9 more weeks to go. It's going fast. But if you're interested in sampling the course to see how you can get your business acumen built and then on point, then please let me know. There's a link for that in the video too, in discussion. And now that I've done all my housekeeping things I'm supposed to do, hello, Angelo Roberts Jr. Please tell my audience who you are.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for having me today. My name is Angelo Roberts Jr. I'm the owner, founder, and CEO of Outsource. And what we are is a virtual assistant platform that allows for small business owners to get their to-do list to done.
I like that. You know, the whole principle of getting on the other side of done, like that's huge because you've seen the TikTok videos and the Instagram videos where they say, let somebody else do it. I run into let somebody else do it some business owners all the time. They're like, Linda, look, I don't want to do this. I'm not trying to learn a new thing. I just want the work done. And so a virtual assistant is something that a lot of business owners don't know they need, right?
Mm.
But tell them how would that work? I'm a business owner, and let's say I have a checklist of things that Linda gave me to do in my business. How can you help me get through this checklist?
So we help business owners a lot of different ways. So whether it be actually getting the work done for them. So if you have a long list of to-dos, you might have creating some graphics for, say, an upcoming webinar or something like this. You might have some accounting or bookkeeping or just very small tracking work that has to be done. You might have to do some billing, invoicing. We all know we hate the feeling of actually asking someone that owes us money for that money. And so sometimes people offload that particular task as well. And so really what we do is we step in where business owners either can't, won't, or just choose simply not to. You know, if we have so many hours in the day, but even more tasks, we step in the ability to really help you get those tasks executed from a digital aspect.
I love it. I love it. And what I hear most times, so like all my appointment people, right? Automation. Like automation is a big thing for business. And when I say, well, you need to set up a calendar account or an Acuity account, or you need to do active campaign, or you need to set up something or add a link to your website or whatever that looks like, right? They look at me like a deer in headlights and like, yeah, okay. Yeah, I hear you. I hear what you say I need, but I'm just not going to be the person to do it. And so having a virtual assistant on their team allows them to take that checklist and pass it right over to you. And then you'll get the work done and they get the benefit of having their tasks done and doing the things that they don't seem to be able to move. Like I hear so much about procrastination. And, yeah, I know it, Linda. I'm going to get to it. You know, I have a guy, one of my clients, that he's been promising me a calendar link for like 3 weeks. So you would help by setting those things up for them, right?
Correct. Actually, speaking of, we actually are in the process of setting up a Calendly for one of our particular clients that just onboarded with us because they are not necessarily sure how to sync all of their calendars. Or they're one of these people with like 5, 6 different kinds of emails. Each email represents an organization. Each organization has a calendar. Each calendar has specific times. And
Hey,
so that's
yeah.
actually one of the things we're doing now is just getting them organized to be able to handle incoming meetings.
Absolutely. And so they want to know, and I know they're like, okay, wait a minute. He looks really young. How does he know how to do all this stuff? So can you tell them what your background is?
I absolutely can. So, for a lot of people questioning, I am 25 years old. I turned 26 this year, but I like to say that I have over a decade's worth of experience within the business industry. Both of my parents are business owners, and I'm the oldest. So, being naturally thrown into business, especially that I'm young, I'm in this particular new age. That means I'm by default the person that handles a lot of the computer requests, a lot of back or work around IT support, all of these different contracts, paperworks, all of these different administrative functions I have been handling for over a decade, well over a decade now at this point, whether it's Excel, Word docs. I've really been curating, if you will, my expertise in the administrative field for really a decade. And that's what's allowed for me to get to this particular point. I've worked with different small business owners outside of my parents, whether it be a pet sitting company, whether it be an actual restaurant. Really, I've taken the administrative side of work and really brought it to the next level, especially in this particular decade where a lot of small business owners are really trying to digitize their business and get things online, get things on the internet, and automate a lot of their processes. That's where I come in. I've been doing that for, as I said, roughly the last 10 years to really help small business owners bring their stuff to the 21st century.
I love it. I love it because that's what's missing. Like a lot of times, business owners, you know how to do your widget, create your widget, sell your
Hmm.
widget. Like you know how to make that thing happen. However, the backbones of any business is the back office.
Hmm.
Those tasks that they keep procrastinating on and saying, I'm going to get to you, Linda. I'll send it to you. I mean, because I start off the relationship with a 15-point checklist. Like these are
Mm.
things they need to do in order to even work with me because
Right.
I'm not cheap. And so I don't want them to spend their money and our time learning how to do the basics, right? And in your case, you have just catapulted them over the basics to now they're actually in the more intermediate part of business because you're helping them to automate. That is so huge. When I had my COVID experience, I told you about my COVID experience where I
Hmm.
was unconscious for 15 days. Like I was out, but my business was still able to run because I have automation in place. And
Right.
so people got paid, the Facebook ads still ran, like everything was still working while the 15 days while I was unconscious, right? And so that's important. That's how important it is for business owners who are wanting to go next level, right?
Mm.
Because for expansion, you need some key indicators, some key process indicators in place in order to get your business up and running if you're thinking about scaling your business, moving your business to the next level. So what does that look like? Like when I'm a business owner and I am overwhelmed. I am I am overwhelmed. So what do? I call you at the contact information in the link and then what do I do?
So the very first thing that we like to do, especially as you had mentioned, you go over a 15-point checklist. One of the very first things that we do with any onboarding client is we have something known as an execution meeting. So
Mhm.
clients have this long list of task things that they need done. And to be frank, a lot of these tasks are very simple in regards to execution. They're
Mhm.
just, it's the question is, how do I actually get this done? Right?
Yeah.
So we've actually had clients say things like, how do I set up an Instagram? How do I get a post? How do I set a post to automatically run every single week to say market a particular event? A lot of these things for, especially people like us in our particular company are very simple one step, two-step kind of ordeals. Yet for the actual person, what we do during this execution meeting is we take their list of tasks that they'd like to get done, and we actually walk them through how each and every one of those tasks is going to be executed. So, an example with the actual person that needed the Calendly set up, they needed their entire organization, organized. And so, what they did is they came to us and they said, we'd like to one, sync all of our emails so that we can see everything in one succinct location.
Yeah.
Simple. The next thing is that they wanted all of their calendars to be synced in one particular location. And then they wanted to be able to schedule meetings with the people, in their particular organizations individually based on each of those calendars. And so for us, that's a simple 1, 2, 3 kind of step process. But what we
Right.
do is we walk each one of these particular clients through each of the steps to show them this is what we would do. This is what we're going to need from you. And this is how long the expected task should take, as well as this is what it can look like in terms of implementation when it's done. So we walk them through each one of the phases, which we consider pre. So what happens before? What do we need from you? What are we going to do? What this actually is going to look like in implementation. So when you actually use this particular device, when you actually use this particular process, what is that going to feel like when you use it, right? Because we want it to be best used for you. We don't want to put you in a process that is overly complicated, that makes it complicated to use. And then 3, what does this look like afterwards? How do you feel after the task has been completed? And what are you now able to do? How does this actually help you move forward? And so those are the things that we walk through with each and every client to make sure that they have a deep understanding of the solution that is going to be in place.
I love it. I absolutely love it. And so by doing that, you are taking a load off, like the stress, you are de-stressing. That's what you're selling. You're selling de-stress. You're selling, you don't have to be stressed out here in these entrepreneur streets. Like you can just turn it over, turn it over to outsource and let you all take care of it.
We are your pom poms. We are your
Yeah.
peace of mind.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. So what are the some of the so how long have you said you've been doing this? I know you did it for your parents and you did it for several other businesses. How long have you done this as outsource?
I've been doing this as an off source. Now, initially, we started as Angelo's Assistants of America. I know, very vain of me. But I've been doing this now that it's February 5th, officially 3 years. So I
Okay.
ventured out in 2019 on my own. I officially launched in 2020, January 1st, as the mark of the new year for my personal decade purposes. And so now at February 5th, I have been operating and owning off source for the past 3 years, roughly by myself.
I love it. I love it. That and that's commitment, right? That's learn. I love people need you because I do a lot of SOPs. Like right now, I'm
Mm,
teaching business owners how to expand, right? Because when you're doing it on automation, you don't know what you're doing. I mean, you're just
right.
doing it because you're automate, you're just on autopilot and you're just doing all these things, getting them done. You're posted over here, you're running to the bank, you're doing all these errands, you're doing, you're just doing the job. But then when you're ready to scale your business, we all know you're going to need somebody. And so I'm helping business owners find out who that somebody is. And in
Mm,
order to do that, then they have to have standard operating procedures so that that person comes in and actually has a job and not just coming and spending their money, spending time. So we're doing job breakdowns. We're writing SOPs. We're making sure that they have the right person in the right place
right.
and making sure they're high. Because in one case, I had a guy who's been doing everything. He's a multi-million-dollar business doing everything. He didn't need an assistant, but he did need somebody in sales and somebody in technology, right?
Right.
And so for him, hiring your technical infrastructure for the technology piece would have been such a help for him, right? To get him set up and get his SOPs on point and those type of things. That's what we're doing now in a lot of businesses because they're working solo. And it's
Right.
time, if they're going to grow it, they're going to have to bring at least one more person on to help
At
them
least
grow
one.
it. Yeah. And so, how wonderful to have a virtual assistant that you can just hand information off to.
I agree. And that's really the bulk of what we're trying to be, right? Our goal is to be the one stop shop for small business owners. As you mentioned, as you start growing, you're going to need to add lawyers, admins, graphic designers, all of these different key components that really help small business owners be able to grow. As we know, no one person is an island, right?
No
And
one
so,
person.
really, what we do is we try to be that one stop shop to allow business owners to expand, to really be able to grow without having the massive overhead that labor normally costs. Whether you're hiring, 60, 50, 70, $80,000 a year for, an admin, a graphic designer, or really any kind of office support role, somewhere between 30 and $70,000 a year, versus,
Absolutely.
stacking freelancers. You have $1,000 for a lawyer a month, $500 for your CPA because taxes, we don't want to joke with that. Our graphic designers, because we may not be up to date on Canva or Adobe, that can run you up to $5,000 a month. Again, for everybody, an entire team, $50,000 a year. So what we do is we try to minimize that in terms of employee fractional services and try to cut that cost down to have an entire team from 50,000 to somewhere around 12 to 15,000.
Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. And that's wonderful in that because you do that service, you are actually bringing them the team. Like you're the gateway for anything that they need. I like it.
Absolutely.
I like it. That's a solution, right? Because, and I always teach, you save time, you save money. That's what we have not enough of. We don't have enough money. We don't have enough time, and we don't have enough. I mean, we never have enough. And so, 24 hours a day is just not enough time to get everything done. But
Mhm.
if they had you on their team, then that's an email. That is
Very
an
much.
email having that execution meeting and releasing it. And then this one,
Sometimes it's even less than an email. If you have things that are happening on a week to week basis,
wow,
sometimes it's a very short 5-minute meeting, and then everything is handled for the rest of the 30 days.
look at that. Woo! Somebody out there is saying, what? Because a lot of people don't even know that these type of arrangements are available to them. And what that means is it doesn't matter where you are. Like we have people in the Philippines that's doing it for the world, right? And now
Mhm.
in America, because where are you located?
New Haven. So, for those of you unfamiliar, I'm maybe 5 minutes from Yale. I live in Connecticut.
Living in Connecticut. It's right here in the United States. You have, so it doesn't matter because a lot of times you run into where foreign countries have different religious holidays where they're not
Mm,
available, you know. And if you get someone who's on stateside, the holidays that if they incur them are pretty much the ones that we incur. It's the same holidays. It's not like
right.
okay, like China where they cut down for the whole month of February. Like it's not we're like February, what? Because they're
Right.
celebrating the new year, so they're closed down most of January, up the mid January through most of February. So understanding that and getting someone on stateside who can walk through all the different things that you need to have done in your back office strengthens your back. That is the weakest place that I find most business owners. Like I created products for the checklist to show them things they need to do in order to strengthen their back end. And
Mm,
so they could take that list and have a call with you and get those things knocked out in no time
absolutely.
and not even worry about it. And then, get the rewards of having a tight ship. Because what happens is, why it's important is because in order for them to get funding or to get partners or investors or just
Hmm.
to grow, they have to have a firm, solid back office. Like their back office
Firm,
can't be
solid.
janky.
Right.
I'll get to it
Because
when
that's where the
it
due
is.
diligence is done. The due diligence
Absolutely.
where people are looking at, what are the numbers? How does this business run? If I wanted to, purchase, 25, 50% of the business, what am I purchasing?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's how important it is. And even, I'm trying to teach business owners to stop the one and done. I make one sale, I go get another sale. Like that's chasing customers all their lives. And I'm over that.
Right.
I'm teaching them how to get contracts, multi-day, multi-event, multi-year contracts. And so
Mm,
in order for them to get those contracts, they have to have a support system that can help their capacity. Because if
mhm.
they're the only capacity is them, that's not going to do well. Nobody's contracting that too much. So they have to bring on and say, well, hey, I have this team and they're going to do X, Y, and Z. And so that doubles their capacity, right? And you're
Right.
talking about contracts like 5 and 6 figure contracts
Very much.
could be a game changer in somebody's business. And so that's what we're trying to do, trying to get people ready for their success to be supported by their foundation. Like having you on board is a foundational move that will help them to get to the revenue. I can't
Agreed.
imagine why your phone is not
One
already
of
ringing.
one of the biggest things, especially when I first started, that I saw and noticed is looking at the actual annual revenue for businesses with just zero employees to from 2 to 5, I believe. So when you look at ranges, it's zero and then zero, then 1 to 4. And
Mm,
so when you look at the annual revenue from zero employees to 1 to 4 employees, the difference is roughly $325,000. When
absolutely.
you look at the average business that's solo, just you, just one person,
Absolutely.
usually somewhere between 40 and $60,000 a year. Versus when you look at a business that has just somewhere between 1 to 4 employees, on average, they are around $375,000 per year. And so
Absolutely.
what we so having that 1 to 4 core people that we're trying to be is the difference between 50 and $375,000.
Absolutely. And to go with that, this week, just this week, I talked to my guy up in Nashville, and he said, Miss Linda, I was looking at my taxes from 2021, and I made $91,000. And he and I have been working together since about June, and he's brought us some support and done some very, the checklist. He did the checklist. And his checklist, he's at 320,000 for 2022.
Mm,
Now that's new
wow.
timer. I mean, to scale
Right.
your
More
business
than double.
to triple
More
because
than triple.
yeah, because I mean, he's done the work and he's gotten it done. And so that's proof to what you were saying that bringing on support like yours could make the difference of somebody having time to grow their business as opposed to working in their business. I mean, and I get there are a lot of talented business owners, right? They know Canva, they know, Adobe, they know, I get it. I'm one of them, right? I understand
Hmm.
it. But the thing about it is, every moment that you are not making, there's a book, Richard Perry Marshall has a book, and it's called 80/20 Marketing and Sales. And in that book, he
Yes.
talks about the different tiers of the work we do. And that's the same thing I use when I'm doing these job breakdowns with these business owners. The $10 job, the $100 job, the $1,000 job, and the $10,000 job. Like when I was talking to my client this week, I was telling him, answering the phone, sending emails, reading emails, like doing the content, posting to social media, all those are $10 jobs, right? But then the $100 jobs come in when you start checking the wording in contracts or negotiating contracts or doing those type of things. And then those $1,000 to $10,000 jobs is like you're out here finding leads and having conversations with business decision makers who can bring you on and sign the contract. I'm
Right.
teaching CEOs how to do CEO things by teaching them the different levels of work they should be doing. Ideally, they're doing the $1,000 to $10,000 jobs, and they let companies like yours do those $10,000 jobs. I mean, those $10 jobs and those $100 jobs, right? If they can just
Hmm.
form that off to you, then that keeps them working where they should be working and growing their businesses.
Absolutely. And one of the big things, especially as you had mentioned, with like being able to outsource these 10 and $100 jobs, a lot of people that are nervous with the globalization of the actual employee market are
Mm,
going to probably lose out because when you look at what the actual worth of the job is, if you look at
yeah.
what contracts you're getting, the small things that go into the contract is 100, 2, 3, even $500. Is that worth being able to go pursue an extra 1, 2, 3 deals a month? It doesn't
Yeah.
have to be on a week. One of the things I talk about in a lot of my content is the power of thinking small.
Mm-hmm.
Does
I like
this,
it.
minute amount that allows me to do 1, 2 extra prospects a month, that pays off. It would take 10 months if you have an average contract of $5,000. It would take an average of 10 months before you close a $5,000 deal, before you actually can say, okay, this $500 per month is not worth it. But if it allows for you to do one or two deals extra, just
It
looking,
pays for
not
itself.
even closing, it pays for itself over a
Yeah.
course of 3, 4 months.
Yeah. And that's the thing. And that's the part, the math, right? The math is not mathing when you're doing $10 jobs. It's not.
It doesn't.
The math is not math because you are spending a lot of your time posting to social media, setting up, scheduling. Like
Mhm.
one that I really, really don't like is when I hear people, when I talk to my business owner and I say, well, people call you and what is that like? And they say, oh, we have a conversation. I'm like, what? No, no, you don't give that kind of access to anybody but your premium customers. Like they can just call you and have a conversation. That's a
Right.
time waster because are you available this way or that way? Are you doing this? Or are you doing that? Using an automated calendar, the
Hmm.
calendar that you were talking about setting up for somebody, using that automated calendar, you don't even have to have that back and forth. And that's wasting time. And if you're a business owner, time is money. And so while you're back and forth haggling the meeting dates, they can just go on a calendar, select the date that you're already available and schedule, and you can have a conversation and do your due diligence about that client before you see them and be actually walk into that meeting prepared to give some
Hmm.
solutions to close the deal.
All the time. One of the biggest things I say is even if you are texting, which for a lot of people is considered the fastest instant messaging platform, being able to text somebody, right?
Yeah.
When you're texting somebody and you're waiting for a response, chances are you're not working. If you've ever answered an email or texted somebody and you know that they're going to respond within 3 to 5 minutes, we'll check our email, we'll go on Netflix, we'll go on Facebook, do a little bit of scrolling. The actual time of communication is longer than just the time it takes for you to send the text.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so that's the thing is we don't understand how many you were talking about the minute things that we do, but how much
Mhm.
of those minute minutes add up in the course of a day that you are less productive. Like
So much.
and when we work for somebody else's job, for 8 solid hours, we are humping it, doing what we're supposed to do. But when we work for ourselves, we don't hump it. We're like, I'm gonna watch TV, I'm gonna watch a movie, take a nap.
You know what's crazy about that? Actually, if you look at the statistics, in an 8-hour shift, people's peak productivity stops after 3 hours.
Mm,
After six, after like, I think the number is five. After 5 hours, people are lollygagging. On average, employers pay
wow.
roughly 2 to 3 hours on an 8-hour shift every day. 2 to 3 hours of those 8 hours is completely wasted, whether they're watching Netflix, on Facebook, on social media. They're not even being fully active in a full 8-hour shift. And so
Mm,
when it falls on us, we become even less active, which
I
is the big
know.
issue because we're used to having a to-do list given to us.
Yeah.
People forget the mental work it takes to just create the to-do list, right? Once you ever on a Sunday, you're like, I want to get this list of things done.
Oh
And
yeah.
it takes you maybe 30 minutes to just create the list of things that you need to get done. And then you feel like, wow, I actually accomplished something, but all you did was create the list, which is
Absolutely.
where we all get stuck at. The after we complete the list, actually executing
The
on that work.
execution piece, right? The execute, and then that's the thing because I teach webinars and I have classes and all these things, and people, they love the information. Oh, Miss Linda, you have me thinking. Oh, Miss Linda, you got me going. But then when I check back, okay, how many of those things have you done? Well, life has been hard since I talked to you, and life is gonna always be hard. Like it's going to always be
Oh,
hard. Everything that's happening is going to be happening if you own a business. You have to make time. Like none of us have time, but you have to
mhm.
make time to do those things that are important to you that are going to grow your business. And so having those conversations with them, they'll be like, Miss Linda, Miss Linda, oh, life is so hard. And I get it. And that's not me being unsympathetic. It's just that when you are a business owner, you don't have another person saying, hey, get this done, hey, get this done, hey, you do.
Right.
You're that person. And so if you're not on your game, then you're losing out. Your business is floundering out here, like not doing well. And so, in order to help people in this brand new year, in order to help people get up, get active, and get back on channel to get their business growing, scaling, expanding, then they need to contact you to get some of these checklists I've given them. These checklists done. It's time to keep moving, keep it moving. But
Hmm.
it's craziness, but I mean, I love what you do. I love like a guy doing it because look, we talk about male dominant industries, and then this industry mostly is female, but then you are a guy that's nailing it out here. Speaking up for the guys, so guys, you can do back office work.
I think one of the biggest things, and I was super surprised when I first entered the industry to see how many women were actually like taking over the industry, and that it was a woman dominated kind of industry. And then when you look at it, a lot of, like, this stems from the actual practice of having a secretary in your office. And so when you look at the practice of what a lot of older people did in regards to having a secretary in their office, it was traditionally
Yeah,
a woman. And
yeah,
so one of the things I think about that is because a lot of men have this ego around them about being number one, right? The secretary, you don't necessarily think of that person as being number one. You might think of them as being number four, number five, number six, or in the best case scenario, being number two, the personal assistant to the CEO,
absolutely.
right? You're number two, right? So one of the things I thought of is if every single number one has a number two, I can make being number two being number one by being the number one,
Number
number
two,
two
I get
to
it.
everybody.
I
You,
get
you
it.
feel me?
I get it. I get it. I get it. And you know, I had a really good friend who talked about he was Steve Harvey's number two. Like for
Mm.
a time, he was Steve Harvey's number two. He said, and a lot of guys looked at him like, number you Steve Harvey's number two. He was like, well, yeah, when Steve get on that plane to Paris, guess who's on the plane to Paris?
I'm on that plane too.
You know, it's like when he's going on vacation, guess who's on that plane going to vacation? Number two is what I do.
Right, that's what I do.
Exactly. So, you know, there's so much work to be done. So much work to
Mm.
be done right when you're trying to start your business the right way. There's so much work to be done. And having somebody on your team to support that work that you don't have to worry with it is like that right there frees you up to do the things that you are your genius in. Like I'm all
Right.
about people working in their genius and then hiring out for those things they don't do well. And back office, I'm sorry. The businesses I've looked at, I don't care if you've been in business for 30 years or you've been in business for 3 years. The back office in these businesses are janky. They're janky. And so you
Hmm.
need somebody to come in and do that virtual assistant, the work that hadn't been done, and to create a workflow that works for the business.
Absolutely. I tell people, especially seeing it firsthand, I've seen firsthand what it looks like to have a particular set of processes in place and what it looks
Mhm,
like to not have a particular set
mhm.
of processes in place. And even for the business owners that know their process like the back of their hand, right?
I promise you.
It still takes you that time to think, okay, send this email, okay, send this contract, okay, meet with them about the work, get a quote, all this stuff. You have to manually in your head go through the process versus either having an automated or just even looking at it and moving through with a breeze.
Absolutely, absolutely. And having triggers in your systems that you don't have to think about it. Like it's being handled.
Hmm.
Right. The only time you have to even worry about is those one-off times when something happens that's not familiar. And
Right.
so that right there is a load off that what you know, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what people think about when they don't know. Well, I know they don't know. They don't know what they don't know. So of course they don't know that they need an assistant to help them to get next level. It's like paramount that they get one. If
I
you're
agree.
going next level, if you want to expand your business, if you're wanting to do more and work outside of your own capacity, you're going to need some help. I mean, it's just that's the mathing. And I'm a
There's not a single
math.
Forbes, Fortune 500, or even publicly traded company that has a CEO that
I
doesn't
know.
have an assistant.
There is not a company that is making 6, 7 figures that doesn't have an assistant. Like there isn't. There
There's
isn't.
not.
No. And so, in order for these businesses to grow, they really need to consider reaching out to outsource to have a conversation, right? And so, what's
Mhm.
the best way to have a conversation? Like they
The
click
best way
a
to
link.
the best way to have a conversation with us
Mhm.
is to reach out on any platform. One of the things I've done in my particular business is I've set out multiple channels so that owners can reach out to us on any particular platform. Because I always feel that as an owner, it's our job to meet the customer, the client, the user where they are.
I love
If
it.
they're
I
on
love it.
if they're on Facebook, I need to make sure that you can reach out to me on Facebook. If they're on Instagram, you need to be able to reach out to me on Instagram. If they prefer to email or go to the website, they need to be able to do that. And so what I tell owners, if they'd like to reach out to me, literally just search offsource, type in offsource into your search bar, type offsource into YouTube, wherever you are, whatever platform you use, type in offsource and we're there.
And see, that's an example of how they could be in those same places wherever their customers are.
Hmm.
If you're doing it for them, I mean, if you're doing it for yourself, you could definitely do it for them, right?
Exactly.
It's the same thing. It's the same thing. So yeah. Well, my name is Linda Murray Bullard. They call me the business plug. Will you give us what your one takeaway you want everyone who views this either now or in the replay to have to take with them from this watching this video?
Absolutely. If there's one thing I'd like to say to anyone listening to this, especially those of you doing DIY, do it yourself business, right? The best thing I can always say is to make sure that you have someone supporting you, whether it's your spouse, whether it's your kids, because some of us, we absolutely understand the economic situations of business owners in 2023 that may not necessarily be able to hire out or even work with offsource or work with another VA, but there are levels of support at each stage of the game. There's the 5, 10, 50, $20 virtual assistants, the actual supports of the same graphic designers. There's Fiverr. There are solutions. I do not want people or any actual business owner or founder to feel like that just because they need help and they don't have the economic standpoint to be able to do it, that there's not a solution. I'm telling you, there is a solution at every stage of the game to be able to have support. And
I
so at
love it.
every stage, it is economically feasible to be able to have support, but you have to be able to do the due diligence to find what support works best for you. Don't go without support because you feel it's economically unfeasible. Find a way to make it economically feasible.
I love it. 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 And so with that, we're going to close and if reach out to him in the discussion in these videos that you're watching. Tune in next week at 6 and look at 7 o'clock p.m. for the Business Plug Mixer. We're here every Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, bringing you information to get you plugged in. Today, we're plugging you into you need to get off source on your source as your source for support for your business. That's what we're doing today. We're plugging you into the main source of off source. You
I
all
like
have
that.
a great, I know it. You all have a great, great week. And we will see you next Sunday at 7 p.m. on the Business Plugs Mixer. Have a great weekend, everybody.